Thank you. All right, well, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you all for being here today. First, I want to acknowledge that we are gathered today on Treaty 6 land, and we respect the histories and languages and cultures of our First Nations, Métis, and Inuit, and all First Peoples of Canada, whose presence continues to enrich our vibrant communities. Today, I'm pleased to be joined by Edmonton Police Chief Dale McPhee, Councillor Sarah Hamilton from the City of Edmonton, and Alexandra Haritsu from the Edmonton Downtown Recovery Coalition to provide an update on a key initiative to get 50 more uniformed officers on the streets of Edmonton. Boots on the ground is what the city needs at a turbulent time as social disorder continues to occur, putting Edmontonians at risk. And as we all know, violent crime continues to be a significant challenge in all of our urban centers, particularly in Edmonton and Calgary. In Edmonton, all statistics indicate that violent crime continues to grow. This alarming trend is deeply concerning for Edmontonians. We must act now to make our city streets safe again. The Alberta government has zero tolerance for these senseless crimes by criminals who think there will be no consequences. Earlier this year, under the direction of Premier Smith, our government committed to working with the City of Edmonton, the Edmonton Police Service, and the Edmonton Police Commission to add 50 new officers to EPS ranks to help curb the tide of growing violence. Today, I am pleased to announce a pivotal investment of $8.3 million to enable the recruitment, training, and deployment of these 50 new officers. They will be strategically stationed in high crime areas such as downtown core, transit corridors, and other problem areas. We know officer presence matters, and having uniformed officers in these areas will help deter criminal activity and provide Edmontonians with a sense of safety and security as they go about their lives. These 50 officers will be permanently funded by the Alberta's government, and given the concerning rise in violent crime in the city, we have worked to provide this in-year funding of $8.3 million to get boots on the ground as soon as possible. I will have Chief McPhee speak about when the new officers will be trained, equipped, and of course ready to be deployed. I will note that this funding will help cover the costs of the officers' salaries and benefits, as well as vital equipment needs like vehicles, uniforms, radios, and of course body-worn cameras. Essential tools to help empower these officers to uphold law and order. So let me emphasize, Edmontonians have an inherent right to walk through the city streets or take public transit without fear. I'd like to relay a message to violent criminals in the city of Edmonton who wreak havoc on our city streets. You are not welcome here. I know everyone here shares our goal of a safer, more secure Edmonton for everyone. And with this announcement today, we will strengthen the capabilities of our law enforcement partners to stand against the dangers that threaten our peace and safety, because police funding matters. But we know we cannot just arrest our way out of this, and enforcement is only one part of the strategy that addresses complex and related issues like crime, addiction, mental health, and of course homelessness. For the government of Alberta, that means continuing to invest in addiction and mental health services and supports. Gangs who use violence to prey on vulnerable residents believe that they are untouchable. And Alberta's government will do whatever it takes to make sure that they end up behind bars. In closing, I want to extend my gratitude to the Edmonton Police Service for their incredible work that they do to keep our city safe every day. I commend them for their tireless work they put in as their lives are in danger anytime they put on their uniform. By working hand in hand with EPS, we are going to take back our streets from violent criminals one way or another. And with that, I would say thank you very much, and I will now invite Chief McPhee to the podium.
Thank you, Minister Ellis, and I'd also like to take a minute to thank Chair Antman from our Police Commission, obviously for providing the support to us along with the entire Commission and getting us today. I'd like to thank Councillor Hamilton, obviously, for her support, not only as a former Commissioner, but also as a Councillor, and of course Alex Raichu for the consistency and the persistence of the Downtown Recovery Team, because really what we're all here to do is achieve the same common goal. Today, as the Minister has said, EPS is taking the next step in tackling Edmonton's high crime areas, reckless criminal behavior, which obviously a focus on the violence. Months ago, Minister Ellis committed in helping us hire 50 more officers, and I am pleased to stand beside him today as he reaffirms that commitment to safety. To say these resources are greatly needed is an understatement. In the past year, we have watched violent incidents, as I mentioned, like weapons, firearms, knives, increase at an alarming rate, and this is not welcome and must be addressed. While there are areas like transit and the downtown core that face the brunt of it, we know that the unacceptable levels of crime and violence are felt in communities across the city as these particular individuals wreak havoc in various areas of our city. We don't have to look far to find the names of those who have been victimized or those whose lives have been changed irrevocably as the result of violence. Without a doubt, safety is the front of mind for all Edmontonians and will continue to be that way. Make no mistake, these 50 officers alone, as the Minister said, will not be a cure-all. It does not rest on the shoulders of these constables alone to solve the problems that have been years in the making. But when added to the long list of things EPS, its partners, and other levels of government are doing to improve public safety, it will help address the city's more immediate needs while building a system to obviously support the actions. At EPS, we have already started making allotments in our upcoming recruit classes and anticipated that by the end of 2024, we will have expanded our transit community safety teams from 2 to 6 teams of 8 officers. I also want to make a comment right now that although in the few years of the defund movement, our recruiting has went down to below where it ever used to be, and now it's trending up very much positively because everybody realizes and recognizes that this is something that we have to get done, and we have record numbers of applications for the first time in a long time. Beyond those specific teams, this funding will support more officers to manage and suppress crime within the transit system, surrounding areas, surrounding neighborhoods. They will go where they're needed, once they're needed, and based on the data and evidence and intelligence that we all have and available to us, which, as you also are aware, we spent a considerable amount of time building a new intelligence system within EPS. The EPS is and always will be data-driven an organization when it comes to deployment of our resources. And a reminder of us all being done on the backdrop of many high-profile changes the EPS has already made, including increases the size of our recruit classes, redeploying frontline officers, our 10-squad model, the Healthy Streets Operation Center, just to name a few. These changes have helped us progress in curbing crime and violence, but I know it comes at no surprise that I still say there is a long way still to go. We will continue to be adaptive, responsive in our approach to public safety, working hard to ensure that our resources are used in the most effective way in keeping Edmontonians safe. But I speak for the rest of the service when I say it's my sincere hope that these resources will obviously accelerate our efforts, and I'm very confident that they will. But also to help lighten the load of our frontline officers by stemming the flow of crime and disorder originating and displaced from transit, the downtown core, surrounding areas, because it is really all about accountability. I'd like to extend my gratitude to all those who made today possible for standing beside me in the support of these resources. I'd like to thank the citizens of Edmonton for their support in our police service during which was being a very difficult year. As I said, losing's not an option here. We have youth in this community that need help. We need support. We need to create that safe environment where it's easy to be livable, affordable, and safe. But to use those 3 words separate is a mistake. They need to be put in the same sentence. And today we're talking about safety, and we will do our utmost best to actually come back in a year's time with a big difference in some of these numbers. Thank you, and again, we'll be open for questions later, and I'm going to turn it over to Councillor Hamilton.
Thank you, Chief McPhee. Edmontonians have been loud and clear that safe public spaces are a priority. The funding and prioritization of transit centers and the core is an investment in our shared and long-term commitment to create a safe and vibrant city. Over the past couple of years, Edmonton has invested in creating safe public spaces This past fall, City Council set a funding formula, so EPS has reliable funding going forward. Right now in council chambers, Council is hearing about the Unison Downtown program, which is a public safety deployment technology. There's been Chinatown and Downtown Vibrancy grants, as well as the community outreach transit teams. And while there is a general trend, downward trend on violent crime, nonetheless, perceptions of safety remain the biggest barrier to getting people back into the core and back onto transit, which, amongst other things, is very important for Edmonton's ongoing economic recovery. This will help give certainty to Edmontonians, not just in the core, but across the city, as staffing levels can be stabilized. The accelerated funding means that we can get police on the ground quicker into the city, and is a key piece of addressing the chronic safety concerns and working towards our shared goals of public safety. So thank you to the provincial government for continuing to prioritize the safety and well-being of Edmontonians and the community, and thank you to the community through which organizations like the Downtown Recovery Coalition, as well as many, many others, have advocated for the safety and livability of our city. I'd now like to turn it over to Alex Hertzu from the Downtown Recovery Coalition to say a few words.
Thank you, Councillor and Chief and Minister Ellis. I'm Alex Hertzu, and I'm the chair of the Downtown Recovery Coalition. And on behalf of the DRC, a steering committee of over 30 community leaders, property owners, city builders, business owners, and not-for-profit representatives, we appreciate the collaborative efforts the Edmonton Police Service and the provincial government have put into addressing high crime areas. We know from other cities that the presence of law enforcement and even proactive policing increases the perception of safety and can reduce incidents of crime and disorder. And this investment is a part of a comprehensive approach that includes addressing root causes of crime, fostering community engagement, and providing social services and implementing measures to create more vibrant and public spaces. So we're incredibly appreciative of the effort and the work and the ongoing attention to the downtown core and transit areas. Thank you so much.
This brings us to the question and answer portion of our announcement. We do have quite a number of reporters here on the floor. If you have a question, I would just ask you to make your way to the mic, and we'll go to the phones shortly. So we'll lead off with our first question.
Perfect. Shailan Skolsky with CTV News here in Edmonton. Either the minister or the chief, just looking for some more clarity in terms of timeline. Chief, you mentioned by the end of 2024, we'd see more transit officers. Can you confirm that all 50 officers will be trained and deployed by the end of next year? And if that is the case, what do you say to Albertans who say that doesn't do anything to solve the real problems that we're facing right now?
Well, first of all, we've already deployed resources into these areas. What we're doing is backfilling some of the other areas. So we've already got a presence in transit, but what we're trying to do now is we went from recruit class sizes of 32 to 50. So we run 3 classes a year, so that's an extra 54 officers a year that we're actually starting to put through recruitment. Plus, we changed how we actually recruit experienced officers, and we've put through 10 this year. Plus, we're going to build a step-down program of what maybe we just don't need a badge and a gun at. What can we do with the lesser to take duties away? So a very complex answer that I gave you, but we're dealing with it in multiple ways, and this funding allows us to get there and get these bodies back in place as quick as we can with the capacity we have. So we're going to fill the capacity of our classes in a couple of years. We'll have all the backfill everywhere, but the reality is these resources are going to those high areas to combat it right now, and we've already put a bunch of officers in there, so we will continue to do that.
Just for some clarity then, the 50 new officers that we're talking about today, they will all be accounted for, they'll all be in positions by the end of next year, is that what you're saying?
By the end of next year, we should be pretty close, depending on how our recruitment classes go, but yes, we should be pretty darn close, because what that really means is, if you do the math, 54 additional officers, that's 1 year, but then it doesn't take into the experienced officer classes, and it doesn't take into the step down. All 3 of those things are where we're going to focus to get those filled, yes.
Can I ask a second follow-up just for the minister, unrelated, for a colleague? Sorry,
sure.
if I could. Just a question for a colleague. Wondering if you can provide any details on the treatment center in Masquachese-Wetaskiwin area and conversations with the province in that regard.
No specific update. The only thing I would say is that certainly we're in the process of building 11 world-class treatment centers throughout the province. We are committed to the recovery-oriented system of care, something that has been internationally recognized. And, certainly, of course, the Red Deer one opened up. Lethbridge is about to be open, if not mistaken. Of course, we're in the process of building one on the Blood Reserve, and we have one coming in Siksika Nation, Tsuut'ina Nation, Enoch Nation, and again, I'm probably missing a few, but there's a plethora of ones that are going to be coming here. And, I can tell you anecdotally, the reports that I've heard coming out of the Red Deer model has been quite remarkable. Whether it be from staff or whether coming from the clients themselves. I think that there's real hope in understanding that addiction itself is a neurobiological illness and that is getting the healthcare attention that it deserves in order to get people on a pathway to recovery.
Minister, while you're still there, Sarah Ryan, Global News. I just want to be 100% clear. So this is not new officers. This is funding strictly for the officers the province already committed to.
Yeah, so the money that we committed to, it was an election campaign, so promise made during the campaign. Yeah.
Sure. And so can you talk about this 8.3 million? Is this just for 1 year, or is this funding that will be committed to year after year? We know we've heard from police on how important that commitment is.
As I said during the election campaign, this is meant to be predictable, sustainable funding. We are committed to this on a go-forward basis for both Calgary and Edmonton. Regarding the specifics of the 8.3 million, I'm going to have to defer to the chief on that.
So obviously to expedite this, some of the first dollars in will be obviously getting the equipment for them, so we don't have the delay in relation to that. But we've already, as I mentioned earlier, backfilled a lot of those positions into the problem areas. Now we're just going to continue to recruit to backfill that. So we will be able to expedite this just by, as you heard the minister mention, radios, body cameras, all those things that are obviously required in an officer. So to his point, this is fully funded.
My last question, Chief, can you just talk about what changes, if any, we've seen from shifting those officers into the key areas?
Yeah, I think the biggest one that stands out is transit. With putting 50 officers in there, we've seen a significant drop in crime level in relation to transit ever since we've been in there. I think that's something we obviously have to maintain because when it gets colder, people will migrate into transit, and we need to continue to do that. But we've seen a remarkable one there. We've seen some obviously changes in the downtown area since we've gone to the whole safer public spaces in relation to open air drug use. Obviously, we still got to take some new course of action in relation to encampments and things as cold and not being safe with our partners. But we're seeing some major changes in that area. Where we are really focusing now too, though, is the resources that we put into the guns and the gun violence and the actual violence on the street is probably our biggest concern right now. And back to what the minister was saying earlier, that relies heavily on being able to hold some people in jail, like whether it's Bill C-75 or C-48. Those changes need to come now. Like, I'm not sure what we're waiting for. We have way too many people that get picked up for serious violent offenses that are out days later. And that has to stop for the full fruition of our efforts. So that is obviously another area both the province and all the police services across the country are focused on.
Hi, Keith Ryan from the Edmonton Journal. I think for the minister, the chief may want to weigh in as well. I'm a little confused about the timing. As you noted, the announcement of this new officers was back before the election. We're now in mid-December when you're announcing the funding. So I'm wondering what took so long there. Or has the Edmonton Police Service been able to recruit and move ahead just based on the promise of the funding coming?
Yeah, I'll let the chief speak to that regarding the. But look, I mean, there aren't 50 unemployed police officers that are fully trained sitting on the streets right now that the chief can just hire and put them to work. It takes time to plan. It takes time to recruit. It takes time to train. my own experience, and I'm sure the chief will supplement this, but to really get a fully trained and qualified police officer that can really handle any call to service takes about 5 years. So they're going as fast as they can. They're moving, as far as I'm concerned, at a bit, I would say, light speed. I mean, 20 years ago when I was applying, it might be, I think, 2 years before I might get a phone call back, quite frankly, that I might get hired. So the fact that they're recruiting and getting people and they have classes that are ongoing, I think is remarkable, and I appreciate that.
Oops, sorry, Mr. Keith, great question. I mean, the difference here right now is a promise, and now the check has been actually delivered. And the reality is we made obviously plans based on promises. Now it is we can purchase equipment and we can do things quicker. So what this really does is this expedites everything for us, because now we can get a lot of things in place to actually fulfill what we've actually been planning. So yeah, it hasn't changed, but the reality is now we have those funds, which are extremely beneficial to us. I think you've covered our budget long enough. Sometimes we think we have money and then we don't. So this is where we actually have money. So
yeah, thanks. And just to the chief, I think it's important for Edmontonians to know that the Alberta government recognizes that there are problems from a social civil disorder issue to guns and gangs issue, and it's important to let the public know that we are out there. We recognize that we're supporting our law enforcement community. We're supporting the Edmonton Police Service to make sure that they have the tools in the toolbox in order to protect the citizens of Edmonton. And I think it's important to get that message out.
Okay. Follow-up also for the minister. I'm wondering if you could provide an update on a couple of other changes you previously announced. One around the body cams. What's the status report on getting those, and also the new agency to handle police complaints?
Well, certainly the new agency to handle the police complaints, that work's ongoing. We're still in the process of building it. Again, no simple task. Really, it's taking every complaint system that we have throughout the province and bringing it back into, putting it into one independent agency. So right now, the department has indicated to me that they're on track, and that process is still ongoing. In regards to the body cams, yeah, I mean, I might have to defer to Chief McPhee because I know he sits on the Alberta Association of Chiefs of Police. I would just say that we're still talking with the Alberta Association of Chiefs of Police. I do have some, we'll say, ideas. We're kind of limited in scope as far as what vendors that we have available to us, and I think right now there's a bit of a decision that is being made whether the police agencies themselves are going to go in a we'll say, I want to say a certain direction, are going to attempt to procure something, or maybe the province might procure something in order to alleviate some of the costs. Again, that's stuff that is just ongoing at the moment. I don't know, do you have anything else to add to that? No.
I think just with the complaints investigation, I know that the ministry is already looking at putting some secondments in there from various sectors to build it. We're getting regular updates. We think it's obviously on task for getting done, hopefully, in the next year. Not to, certainly, that's not, being a former deputy, it's not an easy task, but it's pretty hopeful, and it's something that we all wanted. And then on body cams, we have a committee that begun AACP. As you know, a couple of the organizations or police service already have body cams. So what we're trying to do is, for consistency of purposes, we need to make sure that we got one benchmark on how we disclose, how we do all these different things. So those things are being currently worked at. Our anticipation is that hopefully we'll go quickly, and then the province obviously trying to unify that and I think makes it easier for all of us rather than us trying to do it all separately. So, we'll wait for some more direction on that, but I think it's getting closer by the day.
All right, I don't see any more questions on the floor. We do have a caller on the line. I'll get our operator to put through our first caller for his question.
Jonathan Bradley, Western Standard. Hello, Minister Ellis. Thank you for taking my question. You spoke about the decline in downtown Edmonton's conditions over the last few years. What do you think is contributing the most to that decline?
very public about this and respectful. I appreciate, there are certain governments, they, try to implement certain policies. I respect that. A government wins and they try to implement policies. The federal government has taken a bit of a soft on crime approach. The reality is, that soft on crime approach has created an environment that has allowed organized crime to thrive with little or no accountability. And this is why you are seeing a lot of the brazen acts of violence that you are seeing, not just in Alberta, but really throughout Canada. This is why you're seeing shots being fired in malls and unfortunately, people that are being affected by that. So, I am going to be optimistic in regards to C-48. I know the Chief touched on that. C-48 has received royal assent. I have been working with Minister Amory. I have asked him to make sure that we keep statistics on this to find out that is C-48, if it is actually going to be impactful, to see if those who are violent repeat criminal offenders are actually going to be detained in custody in order to help protect the public. And so we're a bit of a wait and see. But that being said, this is why we're doing all these other initiatives, making sure that we're getting police officers on the street, that we got sheriffs, of course, in the city of Edmonton, which I'm told are still being quite effective. I've certainly had multiple requests from other jurisdictions throughout Alberta in regards to that as well. So I hope that answers your question.
Did you have a follow-up question,
Okay.
Jonathan?
Yes. My follow-up question is, you've spoken multiple times about officer presence and how Alberta needs more officers in the streets. Why does officer presence matter?
Well, thanks. Officer presence matters because it makes a difference. It makes a difference in a sense that if I am said bad person and I see that police officer walking the beat, am I less likely to commit a crime? Yeah, the answer is yes. And this is why I've been very vocal about this, certainly since I've been in this position for the last year, probably before that, but I will just say over the last year, I've been saying this is why we need to have a visible officer presence, officers walking the beats, whether it be in Edmonton in the Chinatown area, whether it be walking the streets of Calgary, whether it be not only on the LRT stations themselves, but riding the cars. People deserve to feel safe. Everyone feels needs to have a sense of safety. We have all rights. We have a right not to get randomly stabbed. We have a right not to inhale secondhand crystal meth smoke. And this is not something that should be taken for granted. This is something that is very important, and that officer presence does make an actual difference. And we've seen that.
This concludes our announcement. That's all the time we have for today. I'd just like to thank everyone for showing up. Thank you.